Welcome to the March 18th OpenZFS production user call. We have Andrew, Daniel, Stu, Anthony, and myself so far. And Anthony, you've been working on a new tool to deploy Debian with OpenZFS. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's kind of a beta project at the moment, but the long and the short of it is it essentially automatically creates a live image that allows you to boot into a live desktop and in place deploy ZFS on root on Debian 13 without any extra tooling. It's got a bunch of features in it. So that's basically the first deployment. So a live desktop, you can just use the USB as a normal USB key. It supports secure boot and mock and TPM, along with all of the usual suspects to get it up and running. When you arrive in the OS, you're prompted with a UI that I started to build. And that's the first part. So whatever you plug it into and press deploy will become Debian 13 with ZFS on root without touching a button. The installer is also completely dark site, so you can build the image on a live computer. It'll pack up the repo, and then you can take it to a secure dark site, plug it in, and it will magically deploy everything that you want. The other option that it has is a cluster provisioning tool. So the UI allows you to essentially build a complete cluster. So let's say you want a Kubernetes cluster of 16 on green and a Kubernetes cluster of 16 on blue. And for yellow, you can pre-provision all of that, set up everything that you want, all of the rules, press one button, and it will magically deploy it across any number of hosts. It's completely cloud agnostic, and it's completely agnostic between VMs and hardware. It leverages pretty much everything I could possibly find with ZFS, and it's all available. I've spent a lot of time doing the documentation and screenshots on debz.ca. That's debz.ca. Yeah, I guess I could share my screen and we could go over some of the overview or.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. A quick question. Is there anything precluding you from using Dev1? Did I pronounce that right? Or a different Debian distribution of sorts?
Well, the honest truth is all you need is the Linux ISO. So if you want to run it on any of the Linux that uses a common pressed, or I think it's pressed, is that what they call it? Installer or Anaconda installer, it works exactly the same way. So you can install it on RHEL, Debian, Ubuntu, whatever you like. I chose Debian because it's what I like, and this doesn't actually install any other packages, so it's very lean.
You're a gentleman and a scholar for doing Debian.
Well, thank you. I just hope they don't sue me. I don't know if debz is too, or debz is too close, but I thought the name was appropriate.
You said Anaconda or what?
The new pressed, whatever that. It's basically the old text installer where you have all of the primitives and you can set up your environment file. I just had to rewrite the whole thing because I literally pulled all of the all of the primitives out of it for the entire kernel, and then to build this deployment tool so that you can use stuff like Terraform to deploy these images. The beauty of the whole thing is essentially you can take any image that you currently have and simply replace your input from the Debian 13 ISO to an ISO that you build using a golden pipeline, and it won't touch anything that you do because it doesn't require anything to place it. So no Terraform, no nothing. You just give it your API keys for one of the clouds or all of the clouds or Proxmox. And then it also has a node builder. So it's kind of handy.
I have stopped sharing, so if you want to share and show us what you got,
sure.
You can.
Go for it.
I didn't really expect to be sharing and stuff, but we'll try. Let me just hope it works here. All right. Share entire screen. Sure. Not sure. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. I see the Zoom stuff. Okay, there.
Okay. So this is kind of my catchphrase: any silicon, anywhere, one platform, because it's exactly what it does. So you download the ISO. When I get my link, it'll work. Simply burn it to whatever you want using Rufus on a USB key, and then stick it in anything. It does work with ARM too, but I haven't perfected the installer. So AMD or ARM. This is like the clustering provisioning. One of this. These are just the screenshots, but essentially you can create your own cluster depending on what kind of workload you want. Not only does it support ISO, but it supports all of the normal image formats. We'll get into that in a second. Okay, so how it works. The first mode I kind of described was a live desktop. You plug it into whatever you want. Everything is ephemeral. It's got its own CA. It generates all its own certs and all of that stuff to deploy everything nicely. And then as soon as you reboot, you're done. And then the clustering provision tool is where you deploy it to a USB key and literally stick it into a piece of hardware and select, hey, I want this to become the master node, or I want this to become a KVM hypervisor or Proxmox hypervisor, and it simply deploys everything. These are the formats that it supports. So bare metal, Proxmox, KVM, VMware, AWS, Azure. It supports Firecracker and kernel-less workloads, and you can also do any sort of container. I haven't built all of that yet, but in short, you'll be able to put whatever you want in a container and replicate it wherever you want. So that's kind of exciting. Let's see, screenshots. So I kind of screenshotted the whole UI and what it does. This is the cluster deployment. You can actually build the clusters. So there's a bunch of roles, Saltmaster. You can have compute, monitoring nodes, and storage nodes. You tell it what WireGuard networks you want it to apply to, what your VM stats are. I need to add another area here to allow you to spray across multiple zones. So if you want like 10 compute nodes on Azure and 10 on AWS, you can do all of that, no problem. So that's that one. It's also got a services, so you can just click off all the services you want on whatever image you're building. And these are kind of the package ones that I just kind of selected at random. You can add your own if you want. Let's see. Oh, cloud deployment. So you just enter your access keys in to whatever you want. I haven't finished this yet because cloud is hard. But essentially, it uses the AWS tool and the Azure tool, the CLI tools to drop in place and deploy whatever you want. So that's kind of handy. Let's see. So we also have node management. Nodes are all configured with Salt or laid down with Salt. You don't actually need to use Salt, but if you leave the agent on there, it will report all of the Salt grains directly to the management portion. So that's kind of handy. Gives you an insight of what's going on. So this is called the golden image deployment. So I can build myself a KVM server, and it will be fully registered with WireGuard and all of that stuff set up. So it can do Firecracker and all that good stuff. It can do a storage server. I just basically set up NFS and iSCSI just for fun. And then I've done a VDI. So the VDI uses the same sort of technology as cable broadcasters. So SRT and HLS and Dash, all that fun stuff. I've got a few more. They're not listed here. I've got one called, I call it Intune for Linux, or But yeah, it does exactly what you think it does. It deploys an SCCM to a dark site and then spits out Linux desktops, and they all magically join. So I thought maybe that would be fun.
Are you defining VDI like virtual terminals or something else? Virtual
No, it's a virtual desktop.
Desktops, okay.
Except for it's not remote. It's not like RDP. It's more like you're getting the video pixels. So
Over
it's
what
not.
protocols?
Sorry?
Over what protocol?
SRT and Dash. It's so it's using FFmpg to scrape the screen directly from. I'm having a problem with trying to get Wayland to work with it because they removed a bunch of stuff that X had. So I have to rewrite a bunch of stuff. But essentially, it's only sending the pixels. So it would be similar to Citrix or something like that. So that was fun. That's another work in progress, but we'll get it done.
I mean, generally, VDI is kind of a generic term for any of these kind of virtual desktop deployment stuff. It's
okay, my bad. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything against what you're saying. What you're saying definitely would be covered under it. But it's also the same thing we were calling Vue when we were using that before VMware sold themselves, and what we're also using for with as the kind of the generic over term for our current virtual cable stuff, and that's all Windows using RDP, at least the way we're using it. They support other things, but you get the idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just using that because I added the NVIDIA kernel in there, so you can do whatever video processing you want to. It's good for like M&E and stuff, or movies, and they do a lot of that stuff. So it's got a complete WireGuard manager, so you just fill in your network, tell it what you want. I put in 4 here just because most people find this a little difficult, so I just figured I'd create an enrollment one for Salt, a manager where Salt and Ansible and stuff run, and then a Kubernetes one so that you can use your CNI with Kubernetes, and you get a backplane network, so you can deploy. In this case, you'll be able to replicate containers while they're running from one host to another, pretty much instantaneously. And then I set up a storage one, so like my Proxmox server has, I don't know, a couple 100 terabytes. So you can just like say, I want 50 volumes of this and mount them all. So that was kind of fun. The next portion, this is one that I was doing, a firewall designer, just basic. The firewall that I'm using is OpenBSD because I don't want to mess around with firewalls. I just want to do everything right the first time. So this will eventually have all of like the relay D and anchors and all of that fun stuff built into it. But there's only so many hours in a day so far. This one you might find interesting. So I built a storage calculator and pool designer. So it just detects all of your drives. You can select however many you want, what kind of RAID you want. It'll give you some basic stats down here. And then you can set up your special debz and then go apply. And it will magically create it. So that should help demystify a bunch of stuff for pool creation, hopefully. What else was interesting? This is kind of the dashboard that I'm working with so far. So you when you boot up with the USB key, it boots directly into this. So it'll show you that you're live and it's ephemeral here. And then you can just like install to disk, or you can spawn a VM, which is like, actually, we'll get into that in a minute. Desktop, so logs, it's got a whole logging section. I actually added an audit log, and there's a live logger here. These screenshots are from yesterday, so they're old. What else do we have? So this is the installer. So essentially what you do is you boot up with a USB key onto the device that you want. So, or you can upload the ISO and boot off of it if you want, just like a CD-ROM. So you pick, I want a master, KVM or storage or VDI. Once you deploy a master, you have to deploy the master first. What will happen is it'll cache everything into a database so that it understands how to deploy everything else. And then you can deploy a KVM node. And once those nodes are done, then you can create a cluster and then just press a button and it'll deploy everything on the cluster. So these are just like the cookie cutter ones. I didn't see, I missed the screenshot, I guess, for the golden images. But, sorry, golden images. Okay, so build and clone. So what happens here is, if you're familiar with the normal build process of Linux or even BSD, most Linux and Unixes, you have like a post installer and you have the installer. So what this allows you to do is build a dark site repository up to 8.8 terabytes. So you can put all of your Git, all of your repositories, all of your artifacts and packages into the dark site directory. And then what you can do is you can, when I'm finished this, you'll have a section where you can just drop in your own code for what you would want the post installer to boot on boot up. So for instance, Lambda functions, or if you want to boot up like Nginx server or whatever, you can just put it all in that. Then you can build that image and then clone it anywhere you want. So whether it's a whole OS or just a container or whatnot, or a root file system or Firecracker, I think that's what they call it. I'm a little bit in the open source tree, so I don't memorize all the AWS brand name junk. Don't really care about it. Yeah, so this was kind of my credential area. So you can add like API keys for Proxmox, AWS, Azure, and GCP. You can also have SSH targets. Oh, I guess the other thing I should note too is everything is deployed without a single open port. So it's all bootstrapped across WireGuard. So there's no leakage at all, and there's no forward-facing IPs. So as administrators, all we need to do is configure our egress and ingress points. So it cleans up the whole process, I guess. This was my beta. I was trying to download it. Obviously old because it's more like 5 gigs now, but essentially you download the image, burn it to whatever you want, boot it, and you're done. There's nothing else. There's no requirements. You don't require any software because I engineered everything from the ground up. So it's not like you need to place these images with Terraform or locked into Ansible or any of that. Every piece of software is optional. So this is what it does. There's ZFS on root always. So every instance has ZFS on root. It takes full advantage of boot environments. Everything in the SRV directory is snapshotted in 15-minute intervals. And it keeps 4 snapshots. The rest of the OS and data sets are all snapshotted, I think it's once an hour. And then automatically Sanoid is set up to take care of snapshots. As I mentioned, it's got an air gap installer. It supports secure boot and TPM. So like all these people that are ingesting Kubernetes nodes by just going, oh, look, it's a certificate. Yeah, they're going to have a really bad day when somebody adds a rootkit to their stuff, but I take care of that. So there's node, we can actually verify the node's hardware before ingesting Kubernetes clusters or Kubernetes nodes. eBPF is built right in, so we don't have to screw around with reporting tools or paying all this extra junk. You can just simply scrape the node exporter. It's all done for you. The WireGuard planes, I just set up the default ones. You can add as many as you want. Salt is bound to this IP, which is the WireGuard 1. It's responsible for ingesting all of the nodes, and it runs reflectors so that when a node presents its WireGuard key, for example, Salt can go, oh, I'll just add you, and it magically comes available. So there's no user land in the, like, what is it, tail scale and all that, where they have like user land and management. None of that's needed because everything is literally, for lack of a better term, a kernel to kernel mind meld. Kubernetes, it runs Kubernetes. I've put up Cilium for now and Hubble. I like those. The golden image pipeline, the browser, VDI streaming, everything has replications. So that's good. 2 ISO profiles. Actually, I guess that's old now. There's more like 10. There's your post install hooks. So if you just make a post install.sh, it'll magically put it in at the second that the kernel is verified, and it'll bootstrap it into existence, which is handy. Ansible and Helm, kubectl, all of the cloud CLIs and stuff. These are all first-class citizens. They are baked into the kernel. And yeah, drop in Debian, so you can boot whatever version of Linux you want. Just simply give it an ISO. I haven't done a RHEL version, so I'd have to change all of the packages and stuff, but I will do it as soon as I get hired. So what can you build with it? You can build traditional landing zones. So if you're doing ETL processing and stuff, you can simply put all your junk in SRV and run it, and it'll naturally be snapshot. If you ever have a problem, just do a rollback, reboot, you're done. So you don't, none of this troubleshooting junk, because I'm extremely lazy. Hate troubleshooting. It's faster to say, hey, that's my golden image, redeploy. VDI desktops, we talked about micro VMs, so serverless. This is where it gets interesting because you can build what's called a root file system, which is essentially just configuration file in an etcd folder. So there's no boot process. It just simply loads your service. And if you're using KVM, you can say, hey, I want 500 of these, and it'll just magically boot them all up in 100 milliseconds. Quite ridiculous, actually. Storage clusters. So you can use that, the pool designer, to build your own storage clusters and then turn it into a golden image and then press deploy. Assuming that you have the right number of hardware, like you don't want to put it in a machine with 47 disks instead of 48. It'll probably crash at the moment. ETL pipelines, Kubernetes clusters, so it'll run any kind of container. You just need to add the container registry. You can set it up as a ZVOL snapshot, and then just pull it down whenever you need it. Everything's air gapped. You can build your own dev stuff. Like I do a lot of testing and stuff, so having to press yes and next to everything gets annoying really quick. But essentially what this does is this creates a hybrid cloud that's accessible anywhere. All you need to do is make sure that your UDP ports are available on whatever's the master, and you can seamlessly deploy across anywhere, and it will magically find it. Some of any questions, I guess? It's a lot.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Okay.
And one super quick point of order: consider primary instead of master. Not everyone's fond of the term master and its derivatives.
Okay.
So, is this a day job project, a resumeware, a product, a service, a lifestyle? What are we looking at? It's pretty exciting because you've covered a lot of ground.
I would say this is just me engineering a platform the way I would do it.
Wait.
With my knowledge of ZFS. I mean, in the FreeBSD world, I can still remember like Alan Jude putting on BSD Now back when everybody was porting from Solaris 10. So
yep.
I've been using ZFS and a fan and a supporter for a very long time. And now I'm just like, okay, well, nobody else has done it, so why don't I do it? And if it turns into something, that's great. If it doesn't, oh, wow. But yeah, I guess it's kind of a work project to like, hey, hire me, I can do this.
What language languages do the most heavy lifting in this system?
It's all bash.
All bash, cool. And
It's
have you chosen a license for this?
No. So that's the other part of the thing I was going to ask about, like, because I don't do licensing and stuff. I'm an engineer.
It
So
comes down to
yeah,
your goals. Some of us are BSD people, and some are Linux people who inherit GPL. So I guess it comes down to, in my mind, what you're trying to prevent, and be very sure that the license is in fact successfully preventing the thing you're worried about. And if the thing you're worried about is not a real problem, then don't stress about it. And keep in mind that large companies want their own intellectual property, so they'll be faster to buy it from you than they will to, air quotes, steal it from you, because yeah, they've got some of the best talent in the world. So don't worry about the big boys coming along and taking it from you. It's still yours.
I'll be blunt. If I want to build my own Google Cloud, I can build my own Google Cloud. I just don't have the billions of dollars to buy my own silicon to do it.
Hallelujah. Well, there you go.
So, I mean, yeah. Anyways, so these are the a la carte ones that I've done so far. So the master, which I can rename, KVM storage, the BDI, Proxmox. So I can actually lay down a Proxmox server by just building it.
Interesting.
And then I can create an API key, ingest it, and then start deploying to it. So it's actually really handy. I've got one for Prometheus, Locky, and Grafana, and then an SFTP landing zone. I haven't decided if I'm going to do the load balancer yet, because OpenBSD firewalls will handle load balancing perfectly. Or at least they should be able to. I've never had any problems. But yeah, the golden image pipeline is basically you build your image, stamp it with cow clones, spawn it, joins the cluster, build it, done.
Cool.
There's nothing hard about it. The thing that's hard is the 40 years of Linux knowledge of me being a system administrator, because I just learned a lot of stuff over the years. So you have companies that make products that are like, hey, this is one line of bash. I can replace your whole company with one line of bash. Log ingestion companies are a good example of that. It's like, yeah, I'll just in-flight tar everything. This was one question I had for you guys because I wasn't sure. Pool layout and such, it's always such a pain. So I just kind of picked a generic layout where every user will have its own home directory. SRV is broken down and var is broken down. Maybe I forgot some stuff. This is actually out of date a little bit. There's some other data sets that I put, but I wasn't sure about that. And then if we just look at like comparison, so the things that I have found, and these are the only ones I know, is so Ubuntu plus ZFS, TrueNAS, Proxmox, and manual. So mine supports a lot of features that they don't. I guess the big one would be the off-air air gap installer is pretty handy. All right.
Are you familiar with Zelta replication?
Delta replication.
Zelta,
No.
Z-E-L-T-A. Zelta.space, I believe. And that's essentially as a public project, a product of the calls. Daniel Bell, who was on early on, has spoken at length, including at the recent OpenZFS summit, about how to properly look at the problem and address it from, say, a compliance perspective. Daniel, you still on the call?
Yeah, I am. I'm here. Yeah, I was super stoked to get my little replication tool hoovered up by the Sylvie project, which is sort of it's a FreeBSD based Proxmox clone, so it doesn't do all this cool clustering and stuff like that. But Yeah, trying to build a sort of a from the just a super portable, again, just born, basically born in awk. Um, and the idea is just to build a sort of a least privilege uh, replication tool concept. Um, so yeah, I play around with a lot of clones and stuff like that. And I'm agnostic to snapshot naming, and so I've taken sort of my own approach to that sort of thing. But yeah, the changes that I want to make in the coming months will be, just sort of detecting the lowest possible privileges required and making sure that all works right on Linux and elsewhere. But
Cool.
yeah, I manage, and it's agentless, just SSH, and so we definitely have the same philosophies in terms of keeping everything air gap. But um, yeah, but I just have one private key on the replication boxes, and Zelta runs just on one OpenBSD box. Um, so, or and of course there's a backup, but it runs from there, and then uh, and then it just runs the SSH tools required to do it. It has a policy and stuff like that. So basically, I'm trying to build the lowest possible building blocks to make replication super duper easy and both powerful from a management perspective and useful to be hoovered up into tools like Sylvie and hopefully others. So yeah, it's pretty fun. When you were talking, I was just thinking about all the ways, all the things we have in common. Because like I'm a salt guy, and all
Oh,
the
nice.
all the clustering stuff. Yeah, like sneaking OpenBSD in here and there where I can. Exactly some of the same things that I like to do. So this is awesome. I love it. I mean, I feel like we all want to do something a little bit like this, and you've just taken it the extra mile. People want to run their own infra, and you've just absolutely, you know, I don't know. You just it just looks very well thought out and well presented. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it's capable of.
Well, thanks. That's great. I I mean, yeah, this has been a long time project. I most of the time I've done everything on BSD, like my file server that literally has files from the mid '90s in it is still running
Oh my
um,
gosh.
from ZFS.06. Now it's 200 terabytes. Back then it was less than less than half a terabyte. But yeah, just the whole Linux, like, hey, I want to run ZFS on Linux because it's awesome. And every time I bring up the word ZFS and Linux, people just like, oh my God, what? No, what? So
Yeah.
I just
Well,
figured, if I can't tell them about it, let me show them. So in this
well,
case, I basically have re-engineered infrastructure as code because none of this stuff is required anymore. I don't need no Terraform. I don't need no Packer. I don't need any of this junk. I can just simply deploy what I want. It magically spawns. And then whatever infrastructure tool that you're currently using can just come in and start configuring it and join whatever infrastructure you have.
Amen.
So it's not really a distribution, so as to speak. It's it's the tooling to do everything that you need to do. So yeah, it's like, okay, it's like Mass and Cobbler and Foreman all in one, except for, you don't need any networking configure. Like, that's the fun part. You don't even need a network card in this cluster to boot because everything is overlay in kernel networking by default. So all your WireGuard stuff is part of the kernel. You can just go in, set up NF tables, and away you go.
right.
So, it kind of really it changes the way that we actually think about stuff in a way that most people have a hard time dealing with. And that was kind of one of the other reasons why I was like, hey, I'm going to join the ZFS call because, like, you guys will actually know what I'm talking about when I say replication or.
Yeah, it's still
very much come to the right place.
yeah, it's very yeah, it's very funny being part of a small world where where just a couple years ago, like now the way we can the way we see things from a ZFS perspective, it's like, what do you mean copying a file consumes space? Like that's not a thing anymore. That's so that's so 2015. I can't and having a gold master that has a clone that consumes no space for everything we do. Why are we copy what? Why would we do that?
Oh yeah.
So
The simple
yeah,
stuff
that
that
stuff.
bugs me, like when I log into a server or something and it's like, where's my home directory? What do you
Mhm.
mean it's not here? It's like I replicate it everywhere.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know if we need to go over all the docs because I spent a lot of time going over it, but some of the FAQs might be fun. So as I said, it's not a distribution. It's an infrastructure layer, an invisible infrastructure layer. So it's basically, let's see, what else we got? What does 100% bash mean? So yeah, the installer uses first boot scripts, boot environments, and WireGuard, and basically everything is automated in that respect.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Why did you? Now I'm a Salt user myself, but I sort of inherited it from other people that I worked with. What caused you to choose Salt over other orchestration systems?
Easy. Salt supports
Yeah.
multiple deployment modes. So you can have an agent, agentless, half and half, any combination of the two. So
Right.
Salt is the one tool that allows you to do everything. Like Ansible is great at some stuff, but sucks at other stuff, just like Puppet is. Salt kind
Right.
of gives you the best of both worlds. And yes, it's hard to understand and deal with, but from what I'm doing, because I'm not touching the OS, so to speak. I'm at max just building packages and building modules, and Salt is just a great tool to do that. And then the fact that I can bootstrap with it is the deal breaker, or the thing that makes it happen. So
Right.
if you're probably aware, like you can bootstrap Salt client, and then you can have it like what I've done with the WireGuard Zero device, where it basically, as soon as something's bootstrapped and installs Salt, it generates a key and drops it in there. So then I can process it and say, hey, is this the right minion, et cetera, et cetera. Then when I accept that, Salt's job is done. You can simply, nuke it if you want to use Ansible, or Chef or Puppet or whatever you want. But it's just the right tool to ingest stuff, especially when you're building on the fly.
Have you written any ZFS goodies for it?
I have not yet.
So an interesting thing that came up at the OpenZFS summit last year, there's a ConnectWise guy who was sort of concerned that that Salt changing hands means that there might not be as much development, especially in the ZFS space, regarding the built-in recipes. But I don't really use a lot of the ZFS recipes in Salt anyway. But I was wondering if that could end up being a useful thing. I don't know. Maybe probably
I've
not
never
for
heard
this
of it.
project, I guess, not for me. So
I'll have to look into that.
yeah, sorry about the tangent. You can continue.
Oh no, yeah,
It's
that's
all
good.
on topic. It's all on topic.
So I guess
So open questions are, you were looking for a home to host downloads. You were also just curious if you are completely copacetic on licensing in Linux land, which is not always as straightforward as it could be. Other open questions that the collective wisdom might help with, and I see that Rob hasn't had a chance to roll in. No read obligation to.
Looking through your, sorry.
No, go ahead. My bad.
I was going to say, looking through your FAQ here, as far as distributions for Linux that ship with OpenZFS, one of the ones that we've been talking about a couple of weeks have been Cachy ships with it and encourages ZFS on root as an option. It's got a couple of options, but they do have that as a very prominent option.
That's what my Linuxy staff uses. It says it's great. So, but I don't know if it does a good job with ZFS on root. I think that's always the trick in Linux land.
From everything I've seen, I haven't ran it with ZFS on root because all of my important stuff is kept on a separate machine anyway.
Yeah, me too.
But from everything I've heard from the people who have done it, it's one of the best ZFS on root implementations out there.
Oh,
Antranig made a similar comment, having tried it. And so, yeah, it was like pleasantly happy, surprised by it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Nice. Never heard of it. Must be like something the new kids are using.
Oh,
Yeah,
very much so.
Mostly, it's
How would
a
Andrew address that?
it's actually
Arch.
it's an Arch derivative primarily targeted at gaming and desktop type usage.
A lot of
Okay.
AI folk use it too because it's really good on drivers and keeping up to date with that sort of thing and making sure that what works is
I didn't know that.
front and center.
Related, perhaps it's also CPU class oriented, and you can have a build for your generation of CPU rather than a glorified 386 that happens to work on a Xeon. As I understand it,
Yeah,
which may
that's
also
true.
be attractive to the AI folks.
Nice. Yeah, I've put. I was thinking about putting Claude into this because I can. The way that it's set up, I could just say AI spawn me 50 of this in Azure,
Right.
and it would just
right.
go and do it.
So this is a jump off point for other cloud providers. I know you mentioned all the keys, all the, hop in and be in familiar territory.
You can run it on anywhere because all it needs is SSH access.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. Like it does everything with the primitives, the OS primitives.
Well, you would run this on someone else's cloud, or you would orchestrate other clouds from here, from this as the kind of central primary / master /
If you were to set up the master is designed for 4,096 nodes.
Okay.
It can be wherever you want. But
So
essentially,
anywhere can be any cloud provider, or most dominant ones.
Anywhere you like, yep.
Oh,
Even
alrighty.
IoT fleets because it runs on ARM.
Right. Okay. IoT fleet. That's a new one.
So
Makes sense.
yeah, you could. I guess you could replace like things like Balena and stuff like that if you wanted to. You just have to build your own custom golden image.
Wow. You've been busy. I see.
Yeah, I mean, this was originally like a 5,000 line bash script. And it was just getting too unmanageable. So I figured, okay, well, here's a project I've been working on for a while, and I'm just going to revamp it and make it look better. I took a Kubernetes course in December, and
Okay.
I didn't really learn anything in the course except for one thing. And that was how to do everything that I know how to do from the deployment point of view, but stuff it in a container or a serverless Firecracker image. So basically, it turned me into a monster.
Ha.
And
Wow.
I just kind of took it from there. I'm like, okay, great. This is fun. I mean, I don't particularly care for containerization on Linux because it's like a security flaw before you even install. But, a lot of people use it, and that's the norm, and it gets good performance. Otherwise, I would generally use jails because I prefer the security over the performance. But,
you get performance along for free. And ones is obviously sort of BSD influence / background / you name it, and you haven't like switched per se. I'm curious what Linux features, or is it purely audience that brought in all the Linux compatible functionality?
Well, the choice was basically I was going to do it. I was basically going to build a. Actually, Michael has a cool little distro tool that was actually the inspiration for this project a long time ago.
You talking Occam BSD or a different Michael?
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've been working on that like crazy, but it's the Occam BSD part that's broken, especially on ARM, given that some build options are broken. And so I've focused on all the image deployment lately and ARM boards and other stuff. So wow, a lot of us are thinking alike right now. Love
Well,
it.
I remember like the last time I joined the call, you were talking about it and you showed it to me, and I was just like, "Oh wow, that's so awesome! I'm going to go do that."
Oh my gosh! Oh,
So, but yeah, that was a long time ago, and this is kind of what happened.
wow. Okay, well
2 years
that's
later.
good to hear. And yeah, between Silva like sitting in the landing pattern for 1.0 and Zelta being something I use pretty much every night at 10 p.m. with clients. These things are all coming together beautifully, and I wouldn't want to discourage you from following the licensing model of Silva and Zelta that just happen to go BSD and trust the world to doing the right thing at the right time and the wrong thing at the wrong time, because we know how people are. But
So is that a 2 clause then, or do you use the 3 clause?
what'd you use, Daniel?
I use 2 clause. I figure if somebody wants to use my name in their product, I mean, is that going to get me in trouble? That's the difference between 2 and 3, right? Is 3 says that you can't use my name in your advertising without my consent. But I mean, I don't know. That doesn't bother me.
To be honest, the thing that I was worried about was getting sued by Debian for being too close to Debian. It was just debz.
Oh,
Oh, that. Oh.
Well, that's not even a copyright thing. That's a trademark thing.
And Deb is from Deborah, right? And there are quite a few Deborahs out there, and maybe I don't know. Ah,
I mean, it doesn't
and
sound the
also
same to me.
it's a reference. It's a reference to it. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it.
I mean,
I
that's
it
think
does
that's.
pigeonhole you slightly, but hey, who am I to
I mean, I
say?
picked a a unique sounding name, and of course, I check out the trademark, and they basically said the only way I can use the word Zelta is if I can only advertise it as a commercial product with the word backup in it, and so it has to be Zelta backup. So, like I don't know, you can't win for picking a rare name either.
Or
I
you
mean,
win. It just is a question of how much money you have, and if that money is more than the competition. And welcome to the golden
Yeah,
rule.
I'm not worried about one of the random crypto bust 12 crypto bust products that use the name Zelda. That's
Or Zalta Alus,
oh
the beer brewery out of Latvia. Come on.
oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Stefanos. Have you been following the demo, and do you have any questions? I see Stefanos rolled in, perhaps a first timer. Anthony, that
yeah.
is quite awesome, and I'd love to give it a try. And ironically, my Imagine framework, which I've been working on and recently pushed just as a testing bit, well, you could probably aim at your image and just go from there. It's like just
I actually
It's
have one.
possible.
fire and forget. So I'll give that a try. Yes,
I actually
Andrew,
have one other question.
please.
Your page also lists how you handle ZFS topology, um, which looks like it would work well for simple topologies, but how do you deal with, say, more complex ones?
Yeah. I built the simple one just for everybody because they don't know how to do it. In the actual ZPool designer, you can create custom layouts.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet, but essentially this is what I came up with for the default one. So
That's
root.
not. I don't mean the data set layouts. I mean the actual pool topology. So.
Oh, yeah. So this one's designed to basically just take the first device and make a pool out of it. There's no separate pool for boot environments or anything like that because it uses the ZFS en route boot.
Well, what I'm referring to is, you know, are you a single disk? Are you a mirror? Are you a pair of mirrors?
You can do anything.
Okay.
You can set up any layout you want. If you want 12 by 12 with two cache and extra special devs, you can set up all of that. You just need to put it in. There's an environment file that gives you all of the primitives that you can do, and you just tell it what kind of data set you want. The other thing that I built in is if it detects like 4 disks, it will give you a list of like RAID Z1 or RAID or Stripe or Stripes mirrored. So it gives you all the combinations just depending on the number of disks that you have, up to I think it's 12 disks.
Okay. I mean, I was just asking because I saw in your, like I said, I was looking through your frequently asked questions, and I know it talked about debz ZFS topology as a thing, but it didn't get too deep into that.
Yeah, let me just see if that's something I can.
So it was just a random question I had.
Oh, no worries. I guess, yeah, the bane of my existence is going to be trying to explain to Linux users, hey, don't limit your arc cache to 1 megabyte. But we'll
Cool.
cross that.
Are sources available anywhere or hiding in the download, or what? It sounds like you're still kind of working out how best to do that, and licensing and all the things.
Yeah, so far my plan was just to produce the ISO.
Interesting.
Because what I can do is I can just host that ISO, and then I do have the source code on Git. It's just a private repo.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, I don't have any problem making it available, but at the same time, my underlying problem is literally it's all done in Bash. So
that's not a problem. I mean, and is it POSIX friendly Bash, or is it Bashy Bash?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so no, it's done right. It's just the thing everybody says, why do you do it in Bash? And it's like, because there are no Python modules, there's no Go binaries, there's no nothing when you don't have a kernel booted. The only thing that is
Bash
available
scripts that are running telco systems that were written in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like Bash is the only, because it's actually like as close to the kernel as you can get. The primitives that you can run in Bash makes it so that you can you can execute stuff in virtually any part of the environment, whether it's at first boot or there's no drivers or there's no nothing, right? And you need that flexibility to be able to like seamlessly start spraying stuff all over the place. Otherwise, like, sure, you could do it all with Python, but like I said, how do you automate secure boot and mock with no Python module?
Until one version of Python gets out of whack, just like Perl used to do, and all of
Yeah.
You mean you don't like typing your codes backwards and in Polch?
No. So I only have 2 comments, Anthony. And first off, great work. I've done a lot of stuff like this, except all mine's network boot because that's what I need. So I'm doing a lot of the exact same things you're doing. But as a product, this is the capitalist brain in my head. I would separate all your monitoring and orchestration stuff. What happens after the ISO is deployed as one product, and the ISO creation as a separate one, just to keep them separate in who's going to care about it. Because I care much more about the ISO side than the orchestration, because I've already got my orchestration stuff done. But how you're deploying stuff in a SCIF or anything like that, that is useful today. So that's just my feedback is you separate those as two separate products, repos, whatever you want to call them, and then you can go and lightly couple them versus tightly couple them.
So you think like if I just made USB the universal in-memory OS that you can just plug into anything and go surfing, and then have the ability just to stamp a master, that would be the quote free version, and then everything else past that would be the enterprise version?
Could be, yeah, absolutely.
Because that would still give you the ability just to get ZFS en route and start working on it, because that seems to be the hard part.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, it's more of, and we're happy to have this conversation offline too, because I see a lot of ways that this is useful, but if you make it this behemoth of a product, it's going to turn people off because oh great, I absolutely hate salt, so salt's in every other screen. You know, I'm not saying it's me, but just again, it's
no, I get it.
This is more of the business marketing reality of putting out a technical product. Is make it isolated, do it in loosely coupled pillars. That then, hey, today, on odd days I'm working on the ISO side, on even days I'm working on the orchestration side. Whatever. It's not just for you, but it's for anybody else that comes in and helps and adds into it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was curious about is, how do I get contributors and how do I go about that road of like getting the right contributors, I guess.
Aha. I like to think you've come to the right place, but I want to throw in there provenance such that if you're just handing people an ISO, maybe it's the world's greatest rootkit, and we'll never know. So to think long and hard about how best to structure all this and share it, which is the $64,000 question, of course.
Cool.
Antonega, I want to confirm with you that is CachyOS indeed providing a lovely root on ZFS experience out of the box?
I'm calling it Cachy.
Cachy,
Apparently, it's Cachy.
It could go either way.
It could go either way. Yes. Yes. It does provide ZFS out of the box. From reading their source code, I understood that they're doing the Debian way, which is the live image itself doesn't have the ZFS stuff for legal reasons. But when you're doing the installation and you choose ZFS, it's like, oh, you want ZFS? Fine. Then I'm going to download that.
I see. Okay.
Fine. And another nice thing that they do is that they don't use the typical Arch Linux variant of ZFS KMod and ZFS, not KMod, what do Linux people call it? Dynamically loadable kernel module, something like that.
Yeah, DKIM.
Yeah, that. Instead, they're building it themselves, and because they have their own Arch repository called Cachy repo, and also nicely they follow the Gentoo way and they compile it per architecture generation, right? So like my ThinkPad is called Cachy v3, my top-notch PC is Cachy v4 because it has more CPU features, less bloat, no more Pentium 4 features. Instead, I get a AVX 512, etc. But yes, it does work out of the box. I don't like the layout, and that's not a CachyOS thing. That's all of the Linux's thing. None of them are doing the ZFS layout properly. It's like, okay, here's a home, here's a root, and almost that's it. Maybe they also have var separately, but it would be nice if they learned a bit more from Solaris and FreeBSD for better ZFS layouting. One thing I do have to say is it was very nice and easy to do something like ZFS create zroot private, make it ZFS encrypted, and then have home in there, and then mount ZFS private home into /home. And then suddenly you have an encrypted ZFS home while it also doesn't bother boot, as long as you're okay with jumping into, Control-Alt F2, mounting the encrypted data sets with a passphrase, for example, or a USB or your preferred where, and just logging into KDE, and that's a very nice thing to see on that easily. I have to specify that easily on Linux.
I don't know what constitute a bad install of ZFS, but what I'm doing is I install DCAMs, then I generate mock secure boot keys and sign them, and then I add the modules, and then what am I doing here? Update the modules. I'm using the ZFS ko.xz, so version 2.3.2. I basically signed them, and then once the machine ID is validated, then it can build everything and boot. I'm not sure if that's the best way, but one of my sticklers is I definitely want secure boot and TPM support.
Yeah.
Because I'm, I don't want people to be able to add their own rootkits and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially with Kubernetes.
Obviously, I can't speak for Andronik, but one of the things that I've seen from some of the ZFS on Linux practical implementations has been some of them tend to be a little naive in how they use it. Typically, for a lot of the directory structure that would normally be around on ZFS, you want those really to be all separate file systems, because why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
But a lot of them, because they're used to the most of the Linux file system way of doing things, file systems are a big static thing. They're not dynamic. So we just make directories within the directory structure on a couple of file systems. So that would be what I would constitute as a bad ZFS layout. But it doesn't look like you're doing that, so yay.
Okay.
I mean, I picked the ones that I would do, like logging, because using replication to back up logs makes more sense. But
for example, one of the big examples that I would give is, understand an initial point. I've been on our channel, so you may not know this. I'm very, very, very much coming from the Solaris Lumos camp. So when we handle home directories, we have we have the home listed as a file system, and it's configurable whether you do this or not. But our make user command will actually create additional ZFS file systems for each user. And so that ends up being incredibly convenient.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done that. I built that into Debian. So like every time it sees an apt update, it takes a snapshot. Every time you do a user create, it does a snapshot. It creates the setup a snapshot. I can't speak. It creates all the data sets and just assigns a generic properties to it. The only thing that I haven't set up a flag for, which I probably need to do, is some of the scrub settings. Because you may not necessarily have your home directory on NVMe all the time.
Yeah. I'm just saying this is some of the stuff that I've seen that make me sad.
I mean, I've just been trying to go on everything that, I've learned from Alan Jude and MWL and just kind of reading over the years. So, I mean, I think I'm pretty good, but, I'm always open to if I miss something or improvements.
The two questions that I do have, if anyone's doing ZFS on Linux, is, well, first of all, as a note, on Cachy, because it's using Pacman, there's a Pacman hook that says if you're upgrading something, it would automatically take a snapshot of the root file system, which is nice. It's a very nice tight integration. So if I do like pacman-syu and it's going to upgrade the whole system, it knows that it should take a snapshot beforehand. But what I'm having a problem understanding is, can I have the concept of a boot environment? And if I do want to have a concept of a boot environment on Linux, do I need to use a ZFS-BootMenu?
Yes.
Again, which I'm fine with using ZFS-BootMenu, but then I'm not able to understand how to manage ZFS-BootMenu outside of the ZFS-BootMenu, as in when I'm booted.
Yeah, I was just working on that yesterday, and my solution was the ZFS EFI. There's actually a tool that does it really well.
Sorry, what's the name?
Let me just find that. Hang on.
ZFS
Forget the
CFI.
name of it. It was ZFS. This one, ZFSBootMenu.
Yes.
So essentially, what it lets you do is you don't need a separate boot pool, pool for your boot environments. It just exposes the /root boot directory, and then it's able to boot there. And what I did was, all you need to do is when you put your apt hook in there, you can do your snapshot before you do your upgrades, and then move it to the right directory, and it shows up automatically there. I don't know if I did it right. Probably a good question to ask is, I just basically arbitrarily said to that tool, hey, I want 10 snapshots, and delete snapshots after that to try and automate it. I don't know if that's a good approach or not, or
It's a good approach as any. I mean,
just figured it would work.
typically what I'm used to, which is a BE atom, it will do, you can take snapshots. Snapshots get automatically created for us for package, because it realizes that as well, and then it's up to you to clean things up when you think something is no longer necessary, which usually is in short order after doing an upgrade. So I just manually only keep one or two, but that's all usually done through BE atom for us. So it would be trivial to script if I wanted to.
Yeah, I found it kind of hacky, but it was like, hey, it works, so why not roll with it? But all I know is it's like
I can tell you I don't find anything objectionable to it.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
My whole point to that was trying to work with ZFS on Ubuntu was just a terrible experience, and that's always been a pet peeve of mine. Like, why can't they just build this in? It's like 2 lines of code. So that was my pet peeve.
Fascinating. Okay, that's fascinating. I should try this ZFS-BootMenu. I mean, I've used it for friends on Debian, but because one of the nice things about CachyOS was in the installation, you can choose like grub and systemd, boot, and other stuff. And they also had this thing called Limine, I think the name is. Limine. Yeah, that's the name, Limine. And this Limine thing is been very interesting modern bootloader, actually. I mean, it seems to have very impressive, not features in the sense that it's like bloated, but it's like, okay, here's the bare minimum, and this bare minimum is enough to make you do things properly.
Do you have a link, Anthony?
Yes. I have 3 computers in front of me. 1 second. Which one am I in the call? Oh, this one. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So this Limine thing is interesting. It basically is it's a UEFI thing, which means it should work on modern systems regardless of operating system, and it does boot from ZFS. I don't know if it would work with FreeBSD, although there is a port for it. Here's the link. And I don't know if it would work on Solaris Illumos, although I don't see a port for it. Although I think I saw it in package source, but I might be wrong. I should have a look again. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is I think Limine should have the ability to choose a boot environment to boot from, kind of. I'm still in the process of doing and documenting that. My goal is to have a CachyOS system for my non-FreeBSD Linux desktop friends, who jokingly keep saying that they don't have enough money for a Mac. That's why they're using this. With ZFS, with boot environments, with the snapshots, with something like, I think it's called Sanoid or something, right? The ZFS Snap 2++, let's call it that. So they can have proper backups as well, right? And then ideally, I would also connect them over to my WireGuard, and they can back up their home drives to my home, which is what like the whole purpose of using ZFS for them is to have proper backups with disk encryption. So yeah, long story short, I just wanted to say that. But this line mine is very, very much interesting. I mean, the code seems nice, the compatibility seems nice, and its integration with CachyOS is also seems very nice. I mean, I said that to Dexter a while ago. I finally have a desktop Linux system that I don't hate my life with it. Like, I know the bar is too low, but like that I don't hate my life with it. If they only didn't have systemd, I would be happy, by the way. I just wanted to say that. But you know, Linuxism and its own problems. Yeah, I wonder if I can convert an Artix Linux that's Arch without systemd into a CachyOS system. That would be fascinating. But that's a story for another day. Yeah.
One question I did have was the only way that I actually found to reliably install ZFS is with the deb bootstrap. Is that
fascinating?
The way you do it, or?
No. So on Arch, as in Arch Linux, they have a package for it. And it's not with deb bootstrap. It's the Arch way of it. It has a hook inside that compiles the kernel modules and all of that. With Cachy, I don't know. But I can check because I'm in front of it. So let's see. Pacman-q grep ZFS. I can see something called Cachy. It's called Linux CachyOS ZFS. Like there's a specific package for that. And because Pacman has a terrible syntax, let me try to figure out how to see this. Oh, there we go. It just has the modules, spl.ko and zfs.ko. So they are just actually shipping the compiled modules, which means it's not actually compiling. Like typically like I would do on Debian or Ubuntu, right? Is like, here, if you do apt install ZFS-kdbm or whatever, then it would install the kernel modules, but the actual apt process is compiling it. So they wouldn't have any license issues, etc. But in this case, they're actually shipping the kernel modules not out of the box. It never came out of the box. I specifically tried to check for that. But post installation, it's like, oh, you wanted ZFS. I'm gonna add this package for you. Yeah.
I was just getting mad because deb bootstrap kept going out to the internet to try and download, and I was like,
yes,
it's got to be dark site. That's not going to work.
Yeah, you might need to set up like an apt proxy, which is very easy to set up, but sometimes it's a pain with some certificate issues. But yeah, you might need to end up doing that for like some packages, and that was also the case for some of the MP3 players 15 years ago due to the MP3 licensing.
Yeah, what I did with that was basically what happens is when it's run, it checks to see what the profile is. Then it says, hey, I need 2,000 packages or whatever it is.
Wow.
And it builds the entire dark site and builds an apt repo onto the master. Wow. So all of the minions that are deployed actually update off of master. So the master has a complete repo, but when you deploy stuff, like if one of the profiles, the server profile, I think uses 107 packages, and that's all you got. So from that respect, it's handy, but yeah, when I had to figure out how to make deb bootstrap actually use that repo, and it drove me nuts for a while.
Wow. By the way, I figured out this Pacman syntax. So this is version 6.19.6. That's, I'm guessing, is a pretty latest version of Linux, hopefully. And the description says ZFS module for Linux EEVDF plus LTO plus OTOFDO plus propeller cache source kernel. I assume because they again like they have this optimized kernel setup for which is mostly targeted for gamers, where like that 5% of optimization means a lot in competitive gaming. So they have that. The license is set to CDDL according to Pacman. And it does have a provide a ZFS module, which is a Pacman thing that says, oh, there's a kernel module called ZFS that this package provides. That's some information for other things to know, like Makinit CPIO and other stuff. It's tiny though; it's like 2 megabytes. I mean, I was expecting more. Again, I don't know a lot of things internally. I'm still learning, but it's and it does not have install script. That's what I wanted to say. It says install script no, which means it's just fetching and putting files. It's not running any, kernel module compilation commands on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I've been pretty happy with this, and I moved a lot of friends to CachyOS lately, and they're also very happy with it. And I mean, it's currently shipping with 2.4.1 of the ZFS utilities, which is very nice to see. Pacman -QI, and yeah, exactly. So apparently apparently there's also other nice things that it's shipping with, like orcstat, right? So that's like typically shipped with through NAS systems, but not like with FreeBSD, but you can install, of course, with packages, but they also have that installed out of the box. My friends actually had a problem because they are on gaming systems. They're like, why is my RAM so full? Isn't Linux supposed to be better than Windows for RAM? I'm like, ZFS is not eating your RAM, it's using it. Let's teach you about Arc and how to set up the ccTLs to set the Arc maximum. So yeah, that was fun to show them that.
Well, that's awesome. I think, yeah, were there any more questions, or I'm pretty much done, I think. I wasted the whole hour, sorry.
It's not wasting.
No, it's fine.
Not wasting, is learning. I loved it.
And DCH, welcome. Do you have any ZFSE questions?
No, not this week. Maybe another week.
Cool.
Does can FreeBSD use a multi-boot or multi-boot 2 compliant bootloader? I mean, I assume so.
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm looking at your Limey thing here. It supports multi-boot and multi-boot 2 as boot protocols, which a lot of OSs are covered under those two options. I would have expected that FreeBSD did, and so I'm asking, am I wrong?
Oh, I think we do. Wait.
Then I would expect that thing to work just fine on it.
Yeah. No, I think we do. Yeah, because although we didn't call it multi-boot 1, multi-boot 2, I think at least in the 4th implementation, it was called stage 1, stage 2.
I mean, it could just be that nobody's been testing it. So
that's a very valid point, yeah.
But yeah, because that's what I would expect also from any one of the microkernel systems as well. They pretty much all use multi-boot as their boot technique on x86.
Yeah. Apparently, they also made their own protocol called the Limine boot protocol, which I don't know which operating system supports that out of the box, at least. But if it's something interesting, then maybe we should integrate that into the FreeBSD bootloader and other bootloaders like Illumos. That shouldn't be too much hard work. Oh, this is interesting. For you, at least, Dexter, it also supports AR64.
Cool. I'll take a look.
And RISC-V.
Oh.
And long arch64.
Long arch.
Long arch, yes. What is that, by the way? Okay, so Linux kernel thing.
Ah, that's the Chinese one. So,
Right,
this,
Oh, Longson. Okay, got it.
the RMS special, long soon or something.
Yeah.
yeah, Longsoon Technology, their MIPS architecture.
Fascinating.
Well, Anthony, keep up the good work. That's pretty cool. A few of us default to just transparency and freedom, but do think about how best to deliver that to people in a trustworthy way with flexibility from a consumer perspective.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, thanks for, I'll take all of that to heart.
Not
I mean,
politely say
the
we're a
thing,
bunch of BSD weenies and some CDDL folks, and that's just how we roll and always have. And it's like, oh, all these things have come and gone, and yeah, okay, cool, great.
it all comes down to what your goals are, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I had,
And please be transparent on goals, because the more I see AGPL, it's always in terms of some company going stealthy and preparing for a rug pull rather than a delivery of freedom to the users. It's like, yeah, no, we've had enough rug pulls. I'm good, thanks. Just saying.
I mean, I had this the license discussion about, on the subject of game engines, and they were talking about, oh, why did um, the Blender engine die? Blender engine died because it's GPL, and nobody wants to risk the embedding a Blender runtime for a game you're going to sell, because what does that mean? And there's already a host of either commercially available engines or MIT available engines, which is completely free. Just put the little blurb saying what the engine is. So it depends on your goal.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, to be honest. I usually do the BSD license by default because I just don't care. And from that respect, but you know, times are tough. Lots going on in the world, so if there's a chance to you know, bring fruit to bear, then I got to keep that open because I ain't getting any younger.
Guy has a point.
So more reason than ever to use BSD, but that's just me.
I use BSD every day.
Sweet.
My primary file server has got about 240 terabytes in it.
Sweet.
So yeah, I'm quite happy with. To be honest, I get frustrated with people trying to run ZFS on Linux because they don't understand that ZFS on Linux is like inferior to BSD, which is, you know, probably not as good in some respects as Solaris or
It's got trade-offs.
whoever's up the. And yeah, and trying to explain that to people is just it hurts my brain. So, you know, just things like, oh, the kernel updated and now my ZFS doesn't work. And it's like, well, that's really annoying.
The OpenZFS side of things has got a lot of features we don't on the Illumos ZFS side, but there are some very nice integrations that we have. That said, you haven't been here, so you don't know this. I have spent a considerable number of rather exhausted days trying to track down and get a bug fixed on the Solaris ZFS side that was causing me kernel panics.
Ew.
So
yeah, I had one question that was interesting because I haven't tried this in probably 10 years, but one of the solutions I had to having a really bad time with ZFS on Linux was, hey, I'll just run everything on Beehive on my BSD and we'll use ZFS under the hypervisor that way and run Linux. Is that a better option today than running ZFS on root on Linux?
So I've also came to like, depending on your needs again, I also came to like to running a Linux jail. The Linux compatibility layer has become so good that running a Linux jail is actually an option. Actually, that's true for both FreeBSD and Illumos. So
Interesting.
yeah, again, assuming you're like always living in the user land and running some applications there, it's a very easy setup these days. But
With the
for
caveat,
example,
you can run into some issues with highly proprietary software.
yes, that's
Mm.
completely true.
And the
I am-
recent one was alternative libcs, where they do a few things slightly differently, and that might
Yeah.
bite you. But
Yeah,
they
things like
might not be
muscle
difficult
C.
fixes. Yeah, muscle C, exactly. And they might not be difficult fixes, but we just have to know about them.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
hey,
So fascinatingly, a lot of people in the FreeBSD community do their gaming on FreeBSD using their Linux compatibility layer to run Steam, which then runs the Steam compatibility layer to run Windows games. And depending on the hardware, they might get better for performance than on Linux. So
Nice.
it's a very weird, situation. But for example, in our high performance computing environment, we still prefer to use Beehive on ZFS ZVOLs just because the setup was that way historically. So I just rsynced everything from the old system into a new Beehive machine, right? But in an ideal scenario, I would want to have them as jails instead of VMs. Well, ideally, I would want them to be for FreeBSD instead of Ubuntu, but the scientific community thought it was a good idea to trust Ubuntu. Now they're paying for it, by the way, with all the snap issues and other things that they don't like, and they have like 80 billion workarounds because of Ubuntu issues like condas and dockers, and there is now a wrapper for Docker called Singularity, and the list goes on basically for the scientific people. Yeah.
Generally speaking, in my environment, I'm running almost exclusively Beehive ZVOLs. And a lot of that is because the vast majority of my environment is running Domino. So proprietary.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
And so the Linux versions of it, we've had issues trying. We tried to containerize them using Illumos's LX zones. It did not work well. We found at least that to be unstable. I don't know if the compatibility layer for FreeBSD would be able to run it. I haven't tried that. So
to be fair, it also runs terribly on AIX. So
full opportunity.
Oh, Stefanos' question is good. Has anyone tried running OpenClaw with jails and Beehive? Well, I mean, with Beehive, it works fine, by the way. I did try running it at home. But with jails, actually running it natively should be fine. Isn't it like just a Node.js application or something? It's written in TypeScript and Swift, apparently. Well, we already have a Swift in FreeBSD. Actually, at some point, Swift and FreeBSD were like, first-class citizens. And then Apple start ignoring FreeBSD, and now for some reason Swift is working fine again.
Has anyone used OpenClaw? I have certainly not.
I have, but on Beehive on Linux.
So you
love, I would love to get it to run. I mean, it does only need Node, as far as I know. Like, technically, it just needs Node. The Swift stuff is more if you're running it on the Mac, and there's also, it's a long story. Yeah, sorry, not Apple. I think Meta bought them like a couple of days ago. I'm not sure. I heard something about news about that. But Stefanos, if you're following the AI news, that would be a good thing to know. By the way, I know a lot of people who are swearing by this tool.
Tool being OpenClaw or the one you're about to
Yeah.
paste?
OpenClaw.
Can you tell our wonderful listeners what OpenClaw is?
Right. So basically, someone was like, well, the problem with large language models is that the contexts are very small. So you can't keep doing the same job over and over again. Instead, let's bring the idea of microservices into AI. So what OpenClaw does is that it opens a threads of a lot of small agents, which are just a bunch of processes that are talking with LLMs like OpenAI or Grok or whatever your favorite one is. And you talk with it over a messaging platform like Telegram, IRC, XMPP, pick your favorite. And what happens is you can tell it like, I don't know, let's assuming you gave it access, you can be like, go check my email, right? And it will go and do that. Or you can be like, build this kind of application in Elixir and then deploy it on FreeBSD using KVM, and it will do that, assuming again it has the appropriate accesses. Some guy gave it access to his whole life and asked OpenClaw to remind him of something, like remind me tomorrow 4 p.m. to go to the dentist or whatever. And the system decided to use his credit card to open a Twilio account and then give him a call. And then it used something like OpenAI Whisper to like talk with him and be like, hello, I'm calling you to remind you that you should go to the dentist or whatever. It's like, how did you get my number? Well, it's in your contacts. Well, how did you buy a Twilio account? Well, the credit card info is in your Chrome saved cards, and it's like, okay, great. So it's yeah, and I think it has a competitor called Maltbook. Oh, right, Maltbook got acquired by Meta a couple of days ago. Yes, Maltbook got acquired, and that one is written in. I have no idea. These software, they're so weird. Maybe it's even proprietary. I really don't know. But OpenClaw seems to be the main one that people are using.
As far as we were talking about the running things in Beehive on ZVOLs, the major downside with that is that restoring things from snapshots sucks.
Ew, yeah, that's kind of brutal. Unless you're doing ZFS on ZFS, because yeah, oof, yeah.
Because what ends up happening is you end up having to, clone the snapshot, mount it back up, transfer whatever you need to transfer, assuming you're only restoring like 1 or 2 files from the snapshot. I mean, if you're just going to roll the whole thing back, great, just roll the whole thing back. But usually I just need 1 or 2 files.
Of course.
And it's very helpful if both the guest OS and the main OS both know and understand that it's in a ZFS file system and what it looks like underneath. So
I've dealt with this in the past by from the host OS, which in my case is always FreeBSD, so mounting ZFS is easy. But you can just you can do it with QEMU and run like a little QEMU VM of the OS of your choice and point it at the ZVOL as a block device and then go from there. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to deal with it, but
none of them are user-friendly.
None of them are anywhere near as convenient as just going into the .zfs directory and copying the file.
Well, okay, just point of order. Can you mount a previous snapshot ZVOL as a block device on that VM, and assuming it's got hot pluggability, it just shows up as a disk to go retrieve it from?
For most file systems, Well, for Linux file systems, you probably could because you can mount them read-only.
You've got your fuse, you got your all kinds of goodies.
Yeah. But yeah, once you've got it as a block device sitting
Right.
there, you mount it as any other block device, and then you can copy it into your real device and then send it away when you're done. But it's still like 2 or 3 extra steps.
Of course. Well,
And
it's
if you're
not ZFS, and when
when
it's
I'm
not ZFS, you don't have the benefits of ZFS, and yeah.
when I'm sitting in a zone where I imagine one of the Linux equivalents, I could probably just go in and, like I said, navigate through the .zfs snapshots directory and find what I want.
Yep. This is the way. And Anthony's got root on ZFS, and that's kind of what got us here and kicked us off, such that as long as the licensing across the board, be it the inclusion of his things and his builds of Linux are copacetic, and his tools and all, well, there's some hope.
By the way, I do see an open issue of OpenClaw saying feature support FreeBSD that was opened just 5 days ago.
Oh, really? Give a link. Drop the link in if you will. Why not? Oh.
Yeah, sure. But I think, let's see, and apparently some people are even doing things like, hey, please update this because it also fixes issues on FreeBSD, right? So apparently some people are maybe hacking around it on FreeBSD, although I don't see what ZFS Docker file pm hard link. What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
What, like Docker build files on ZFS during pm installed? Oh my God. So these people have a pm script that runs Docker. Why would you even do that? Why would you even do that? Oh, fine, whatever.
Okay, fine. Well,
sorry, it's
no, I haven't had any requests nor desire to have an AI call. Thank you. I'm sure there are hundreds out there.
And we shouldn't
Hundreds.
burn trees for, yeah. This AI thing is again reminding me of Docker. It's like, I love the idea, I hate the implementation. So
Right. Did you drop a link to that PR for
yeah, sorry,
Open
I'll get it.
Law? It sounds like some Harry Potter school sorority.
Maybe I won't. Is this the one?
How does this work? There we go, FreeBSD. Okay, copy and paste. There you go.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
And Andrew, while we've covered basically all the components, Beehive, ARM64, and ZFS, I'm pleased to report that the ARM64 Gate folks have chased down the issue I reported on ARM Beehive under ARM Illumos under Beehive, and there are small fixes at both ends. So apparently they have it booting. I haven't tried a new image, but
awesome.
There's a path forward. And don't get me wrong, Beehive / Illumos is probably useful for developing ARM64 Illumos under Illumos, just to have just an easy access actual environment to work from. So they've been cool. They've been very thoughtful. I wrote Mark Johnson and Andrew Turner about that for just a simple little fix at the FreeBSD end. So anyway, there's progress there. Giving a preview of tomorrow's Beehive call.
Well, I'm doing that because we found a bug in Beehive where when we were running some of the scientific software, it was going out of memory boundary and crashing the whole host. Sorry, that's for tomorrow. Never mind.
Another preview, a teaser, if you will. Anyway, anything else, gang? Great work, Anthony. Keep it coming. Figure out where to download it. Figure out how to license it. I will actually sit down and watch your demo, given that I was driving at the time. I'm now at my desk. That's cool. I'm excited.
Can Anthony do
Yeah,
the
thanks.
honors? Or does the ZFS call doesn't know what that is?
Repeat that?
I was saying, can Anthony do the honors? Or
Oh, Anthony. Well, he hasn't been here in like
That is.
4 years, but Anthony, have you been watching videos and you know what that refers to?
I'm completely busted. Sorry.
Okay, well, maybe next time.
Okay, I'll drop it in chat while we're kind of distracting here.
I was just trying to get a build up and running, but I keep failing because mock and TPM are tough. I still haven't figured this out 100%. Like and subscribe. Wow.
There you go. Woohoo, we got it.
There we go.
Not that we're monetized, but hey, apparently that's what people say.